Let me be very clear. Let me just be very clear. My experience was not that of a person who visited a capital city or major town in an African country. My experience is not meant to be representative of all American perspectives, all of Black Americans' perspectives. It's also not supposed to be representative of the every nook and cranny of the entire country of Uganda. It's also not meant to be derogatory in any sense. It's not supposed to be representative at all. Let me just come a little closer. It is not representative of all of Africa. I cannot speak for the entire continent. It's taken me months to make this video. I got back from Uganda in August. It's now October, and I finally have the headspace to sit down and review the footage that I started filming halfway through my experience. It was a day that shifted things for me, where I stopped sharing things on my stories on Instagram in real time, and I decided to just fully immerse myself in the experience while capturing it to review later on, when I was able to digest it a little bit more. Right now, I'm gonna start from the beginning, and I guess I will share my thoughts on things that maybe I couldn't comment on in the moment, and maybe explain a little bit more of some of the things that I've elaborated on my blog, Thoughtful Gems, shameless plug, and I'm gonna get into it. Disclaimer, so even though I didn't start vlogging until after my halfway point of my trip, I was filming things for my stories, not with the intent to create a YouTube video. So I do have a bit of a mashup from the first half of my Uganda experience. I stayed in Masaka, Uganda, so it's about 3 hours from the capital city, Kampala, Uganda. And it is a beautiful mountainous town. There's mountains, there's palm trees, which are my favorite. And it's really close to the equator, but the weather wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. It was really like low to mid 70s, and I was there during July to August. So I think most of the people there confirmed that the weather kind of stays consistent year round. So it's really beautiful. But as you'll see in the videos, there are some things that were challenging to digest, and maybe that'll be apparent as I talk through some of these things. But there were incredible moments, fun moments, funny moments. I laughed, I cried, I grew, and as cliche as it is to say, it was an eye-opening, life-changing, perspective-shifting experience. So if you want to learn more about it, stick around, and these are the Uganda vlogs. So the reason I was there is because I was doing a research internship, and the internship is one that I'm still working on right now. I'm doing research project, and it is centered on global mental health and infectious disease. And what I was doing for the 4 weeks was working at a lab. So you'll see some clips, I'll insert them here, about what the day-to-day looked like and what the lunch situation looked like. And the things that they ate are not what I was accustomed to. They meaning the people of Uganda. And I'm not just specifying Masaka here because it was throughout the region. And some of those things are matoka, posho, what else? Pumpkin. I've had pumpkin before, but not in the way that I had it here. And a lot of the time, there was not much variation outside of touristy areas. So some of the things I'm naming are exactly what is the norm. And that was a little challenging for my palate because I am used to having a wealth of access to different types of food. And it was challenging, but one of the things I like most about lunchtime, at least when I spent lunch at the office, was just the community of having a local restaurant come and share their meal with us. And it was pretty much the same for the 4 weeks that I was there. Where I lived felt like a palace, and there are people who worked at the hotel that I was at that came to my specific residence, and I lived in what was like a suite style apartment, but I kid you not, that room is bigger than my entire apartment space where I'm at right now. And it's just a weird paradox because here I was living in this luxurious room, but outside of my 4 gorgeous walls with big open windows and a king size bed and just a number of things that I'd only seen in movies. It felt amazing. But outside of those 4 walls was a completely different reality that I soon realized my colleagues and people that were part of my experience were facing. During my first week there, I mentioned I was there for 4 weeks. During my first week, one of my coworkers basically took me under her wing. She was a godsend. And she was like my mom while I was there. So she took me to the Friday market, which is the only opportunity I got to go during the time there. And she's showing me Matoka, which I think I mentioned before, and I might be saying it incorrectly. Someone corrected me at the end of my trip and said that Matoka and Matoke are 2 different things, and I think one of the words is inappropriate. So if you know, please comment below which one is correct.
Of these the peelings, they put off the peelings, then after they cook and eat.
Okay. But she took me to the market, and it was just interesting because it was different than what I expected or what I've experienced before, even while abroad. When I was in Thailand, there was a Sunday market. This was an assortment of food and items that are secondhand, that, or at least from my experience, I realized they were secondhand, and that I'll insert some clips here so you can get a visual. And I was there at night, so I was only able to see a little bit of it. Okay, so looking back at this clip, it's all coming back to me. So I got a little distracted on the way home from the Friday market, and there was this wedding dress shop. And when I say shop and things like that, you have to understand that from this point forward in these recollection videos, I'm just gonna be very candid about my perspective as a privileged American in a space where I have never seen there's no other way to spin it, poverty to this level. So it's not like there's some big grandiose shop that I was in, but it was more of like a space where people were selling dresses, but it was a wedding gown shop for the town. And I saw this gown and I ended up getting it custom tailored for 30 bucks. And then I came back here to the States and I got it dry cleaned, and it cost 30 bucks to dry clean it. So there's that. But it was a fun experience. So if you're new to my life and you're watching this because you don't know me personally, I am a medical student right now. So this happened during the summer between my first and second years of medical school. One day we will go through that whole story on this channel. But for now, just know that I'm a medical student and this is how I spent my summer, at least part of it. And I was also working on completing a master's that I had started before I came to medical school. And that degree is now conferred. But you'll see that I was dancing around in the room and trying to get things done during that entire first week so that I can actually enjoy the last 3 weeks of my program. It was frustrating to me that I had to overlap the 2, but I also recognized the privilege in being able to work on the master's, which is actually for a Master's of Science in Global Health, alongside my Uganda experience. So as much of a blessing as it was, much of that first week in my downtime wasn't spent reflecting and rejuvenating in the way that I had hoped my international experience would be. It was more so spent hustling and working and getting in really huge assignments. First of all, my name is Ashley. The people that I met thought my name was so exotic, and I have never experienced that in my life. I have one of the most common names in the United States. There was one time where I was walking with a girl and her name was Immaculate, and I was like,
that is such a beautiful name.
And she's like,
yeah, my name is Immaculate.
and I was like,
Wow, that's a beautiful name.
She's-
What's your name?
and I'm like,
Ashley.
she's like,
Ashley, that's a unique one.
it just, and other times people at work would introduce me to their other coworkers and they would go, oh, that's an exotic name. Crazy. The other thing is that something about my undertone kind of prompted people to comment things like, oh, you glow different. I heard that more than once. Like, she glows different, or I can tell from her skin tone she's not from here. And it's not just about hue, it's about the undertone, because there was a woman who was several shades lighter than me who said this comment, and she's like, are both of your parents black? And I'm like, yes. Like, I've never gotten that before. I've gotten where are you from multiple times, but I don't think people who, I will say this, and I'm really not going to like hold back because it's my channel and I have to treat it how I treat my blog. But I was gonna say that I think people who are of lighter skin tone don't recognize that they're not the only ones who get asked questions like, what are you, or where are you from? I get that a lot, and I've gotten it from many different people from many different parts of the world, both domestically and abroad. And this experience was no different. And I used to have a chip on my shoulder about like not really knowing how to answer that question, because I can just say I'm from Georgia and it really doesn't stop there. It's like, no, but what are you really? And one day maybe we can have a conversation about that, but I plan to write about it on the blog. I'm including it here because it was part of my experience, and I don't know. She basically was saying like, I can tell that you're not from here because I can just tell. You glow different. So I take it as a compliment. I didn't take any offense. I never take any offense with people's questions, because people ask questions about where you're from or what are you because of what your aesthetic is. And if you actually are from someplace else, then that just validates why they asked you the question in the first place.
Or if you are ambiguous in any kind of way, then it's why they asked you in the first place. So for me, I did my ancestry, and I'm from multiple parts of or my ancestors are from like multiple parts of West and Southern Africa, which I can gather from historical context, but it's not going to be just one country. So to these individuals that were curious, it makes sense why they couldn't just pin me to one country. People for my entire life have been like, are you, as long as I've been an adult, you can ask me these questions. It's like, they claim me as Ghanaian, they claim me as Nigerian, they claim me as, some people did claim me to be from Uganda, but then looking at my ancestry, you can see that it's like, like African mix. So they can't just pin it to one region, it's multiple.
And so it would make sense, I guess, why I got these comments. I still don't fully understand it. I'm just trying to make sense of it, and hopefully this doesn't offend anybody, but if it does, you can click off. I'm gonna be looking over because I'm looking at the video as I annotate, but I was in Masaka town, so I went down there to get money, and when I tell you I was like hoarding money in my bag because I was taking out an absurd amount of cash, but I didn't want to like advertise that. And it's because it's kind of a hassle when you're a traveler and you are in a space, especially where everyone doesn't take a card, and especially if you have a bank that charges you. If you don't know, please download Charles Schwab. If you are a traveler, you don't want to avoid bank fees, like they will literally refund you if a bank charges you while you try and take out money abroad. Nonetheless, that's why I was downtown, and it was my first time outside of my hotel and my workspace that week, and hadn't really had like an adventure yet, but what I saw was downtown Osaka. I want to say that a lot of the challenge that I experienced mentally did not surface until that halfway point that I mentioned. For that time that I was so focused on completing my master's coursework and getting logistics straight with being in a new country, I didn't take time to sit and think about what I was seeing. But I knew that I would later, or at least I feel like my spirit knew, because looking back at these videos, the things that I chose to take little clips of were significant to me because I wanted to remember and I wanted to be able to show people one day. So I'm showing you, and eventually it won't just be cell phone footage. Well, it will be cell phone footage, but eventually it won't just be in cell phone view, vertical. It'll be a little bit easier to see, but I was trying to find the beauty, or rather not trying to find it, it was everywhere. I just wanted to capture the beauty. So I was walking through downtown. I was trying to find a Boda Boda. Boda Boda is these little motorcycle things that people ride around on. Not safe, people don't wear helmets, but that's the way they get around. It's like a taxi. And I just saw this bird flying across, and like looking out into the horizons, the mountainous terrain was always there. And it was really beautiful. But then if you look up close, you'll see people on the street selling their items, like on the ground, and you'll see the buildings falling apart, and you'll see these things. And if I do not say it enough throughout this, let me be very clear. Let me just be very clear. My experience was not that of a person who visited a capital city or major town in an African country. My experience is not meant to be representative of all American perspectives, all of Black Americans' perspectives. It's also not supposed to be representative of the every nook and cranny of the entire country of Uganda. It's also not meant to be derogatory in any sense. It's not supposed to be representative at all. Let me just come a little closer. It is not representative of all of Africa. I cannot speak for the entire continent. What I'm speaking about, however, is my experience and what I saw and what is not often showcased. Because when I went there, I wanted to come back and say, y'all, like, it's not what they're telling you.
It's not like what they say, like it's lit out here.
And it is. But there's truth to every stereotype. There's truth to the things that you see and you hear. And I feel like I can speak to the fact that there's an entire neglected part of the world where people do not have access to what you watching this probably have access to. And that is why I'm making these videos. Now that that's out of the way. It's hard to believe that this was my life. I had a whole life out there for a month. And I know it sounds like just a speck in time, because it is, but it's a speck in time that will remain with me forever. And I'm taking time to do this because I've traveled other places before, but this is the most meaningful experience I've had in my life to date. I hope that it touches you in some way. I hope that my naivety, privilege, and perspective are not off-putting. But if they are, know that they're just authentic to me and my experience from what those 4 weeks meant to me. But this is wild. It's taking me back, and it's only been like 3 months since I've been back, almost to the date. And let's just keep going.